Ashen 1. Sit at the bonfire with me. Let me tell you a story about another champion who was just like you. Long ago, there was an ancient king called Gundyr who was tasked with linking the first flame. He was given an iron halberd with the power to break poise and never crumble. However, someone had different plans for him, and the king found himself restrained by a chain that blocked him in his path, leading him to fall into an abyss and get lost in the folds of time. Gundyr arrived late, or it was believed, to hear the Firelink shrine with no fire and no firekeeper. Gundyr was defeated by an unknown warrior and then became sheathed to a coiled sword and transformed into an indestructible golem, becoming the ritual test for those who would attempt to link the first flame after him, testing their strength and worthiness. That would normally be the end of Gundyr's story, but that is just the beginning of it all. Gundyr became enraged at the fact that he wasn't the one who was going to link the fire. He ripped out the coiled sword within himself, cured himself of the pus of man, and set his sights on re-challenging the warrior who bested him the first time. Upon arriving back to the untended grave, he was shocked to see who this unknown warrior was. It was himself. Shocked by this discovery, he took a moment to watch himself, as for the first time in a long while, he saw himself as the champion and king he once used to be. Instead of jumping on the opportunity to ambush this other Gundyr, he allowed him to stand up so they could have an honourable fight. With both Gundyrs standing toe to toe, this battle meant a whole lot more to our Gundyr, as a second loss to this new Gundyr would be the end for his ambitions before it even started, within a moment's notice. The fight began. Each Gundyr lunged at each other, both striking each other with their halberds as they thrusted towards each other, throwing overhead hits and launching haymakers at each other. Heavy attacks back and forth as each warrior knew what was at stake. Cracks in the armour began to show as each Gundyr grew tired, and the rage started to build in one another where the full potential of the king would be seen. Some attacks even began to stagger one another as each Gundyr was being dropped to a knee as the fight continued on. Our Gundyr knew he couldn't let this warrior get the best of him, as he did before. He planned to keep on the attack and not allow the other Gundyr to garner any offence. The chains, the darkness, and the thought of having to be the judge, reduced to a simple tutorial boss for the player to get used to the game, was something he did not want to do again. He was going to be a Lord of Cinder no matter the cost. As the duel raged on, exhaustion began to creep in. Just as our Gundyr thought he might gain the upper hand, the other one-eyes began to glow a fierce, fiery red. A guttural growl emanated from deep within, and the other Gundyr seemed to grow in ferocity and power. His attacks became more relentless, more intense, each strike now fueled by an unholy rage. But our Gundyr was not one to be easily outmatched. Digging deep into his own reserves of strength and willpower, he met the onslaught with renewed vigour. The red glow in his opponent's eyes only served to ignite his own determination. The glowing of his own eyes meant this was now an even fight. He matched the intensity of the other Gundyr attacks, blow for blow, strike for strike. It was at this moment. The final blow was delivered. The other Gundyr fell to his knees, a look of acceptance in his eyes. He understood that his purpose had been fulfilled, to test, to challenge, and ultimately, to strengthen. As he crumbled to dust, our Gundyr felt a surge of power course through him. He had faced his greatest adversary, himself, and emerged victorious. The path ahead led him to Firelink Shrine. The very same place that you and I are at right now, except this time it was full of life and fire. As he stepped through the ancient stone archway, Gundyr was greeted by an eerie stillness. The shrine, bathed in the soft glow of flickering bonfires, seemed both welcoming and foreboding. The air was thick with the scent of ashes and the echoes of countless warriors who had come before him. Gundyr eyes scanned the vast, circular chamber. At its centre stood the bonfire, a symbol of hope and renewal. Surrounding it were the thrones of the Lords of Cinder, now empty, awaiting the return of those who had linked the fire before him. Each throne told a story of sacrifice and glory, a legacy he was now finally a part of. With a final glance at the bonfire, Gundyr knew that his journey was far from over. The path to becoming a Lord of Cinder was fraught with peril and sacrifice, but he was ready. He would face whatever challenges lay ahead, for he was Gundyr, the Unkindled Champion, and his flame would never be extinguished. As he was leaving, he couldn't help but hear,
"Prithee, be careful."
Gundyr's journey first led him to the Farron Keep, where the Abyss Watchers, a legion of undead warriors bound by their oath to destroy the Abyss, awaited. The battle was fierce and chaotic, as the Watchers, driven by their shared soul, attacked in unison and fought amongst themselves. With each strike, Gundyr's halberd cleaved through their ranks. When the soul of the blood of the wolf manifested, its power surged through a single Watcher, making the fight even more intense. Gundyr, undeterred, matched their ferocity with his own, finally laying the Watchers to rest and absorbing their shared essence. Next, Gundyr ventured to the Grand Cathedral of Anor Londo, where Aldrich, the Devourer of gods, resided. The once noble cleric had transformed into a grotesque, amorphous being, having consumed countless souls, including that of Gwyndolin, the Dark Sun. The battle was grueling as Aldrich wielded the stolen powers of the gods, conjuring dark sorceries and raining arrows from above. Gundyr pressed on, his halberd striking through the viscous form of the Devourer. Each blow brought Gundyr closer to victory until finally, with a decisive strike, he shattered Aldrich's form, dispersing the remnants of consumed souls into the ether. The journey then led Gundyr to the profaned capital, where Yhorm the giant awaited. Once a noble ruler, Yhorm had succumbed to despair and rage, wielding his immense strength and a colossal machete. The vast throne room shook with the force of their clash, the giant swings creating gusts of wind that could topple buildings. Despite the overwhelming odds, Gundyr's relentless assault and strategic strikes found their mark. Remembering the Storm Ruler, a weapon designed to fell giants, Gundyr used its power to unleash devastating attacks, finally toppling the mighty giant and ending his suffering. The final confrontation brought Gundyr to the highest peak of Lothric Castle, where Prince Lothric and his elder brother Lorien awaited. The brothers, "Wait, what is Pontiff doing up here fighting the princes?" Anyway, intertwined by fate and curse, fought as one, with Lorien's devastating sword strikes and Lothric's powerful sorceries creating a formidable combination. The battle was a dance of death, with Gundyr dodging and countering their synchronized assaults. Each strike he landed on the crippled prince brought him closer to breaking their bond. With one final powerful blow, Gundyr severed the connection between the brothers, ending their reign and fulfilling the prophecy of the Unkindled. With all the Lords of Cinder slain and returned to their thrones, it was time for the ceremony to get Gundyr to the kiln of the first flame. Noble Lords of Cinder, the fire fades. And the lords go without thrones. Surrender your fires to the true heir. Let him grant death to the old gods of Lordrin, deliverers of the first flame. The journey had been long and arduous, but Gundyr's resolve had never faltered. With the Lords of Cinder defeated, he now stood at the precipice of destiny. The kiln of the first flame, a desolate and ashen landscape, lay before him. The air was thick with the remnants of countless sacrifices, the final battleground for those who sought to link the fire. At the heart of the kiln, the soul of Cinder awaited. The soul of Cinder is the deific manifestation of the souls of all who have linked themselves to the first flame through history, becoming Lords of Cinder. It thus is an entity possessing all the abilities of the previous champions despite just being an empty husk. As Gundyr approached, the air crackled with an ancient, overwhelming energy. The soul of Cinder rose, a flickering, ever-changing entity, embodying the strength and resolve of all who had come before. The battle began with a clash of steel and fire. The soul of Cinder, shifting through various forms, wielded many weapons and sorceries with unmatched skill. Each transformation brought new challenges: a knight with a longsword, a pyromancer with a flame, a sorcerer with a staff, and a spear-wielding warrior. As the battle raged on, the soul of Cinder transformed once more, assuming the form of Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight. Gwyn's mighty greatsword, ablaze with the power of sunlight, struck with ferocious speed and intensity. The clash between Gundyr and the soul of the first Lord of Cinder was a spectacle of raw power and indomitable will. Gundyr pressed on. With each strike, he could feel the soul of Cinder weakening. The final moments of the battle were a blur of motion and fire. With a powerful, decisive blow, Gundyr's halberd struck true, piercing through the essence of the soul of Cinder. The ancient guardian staggered, its form dissipating into ash and light. The kiln fell silent, the air heavy with the weight of the moment. Gundyr, battered but unbroken, approached the first flame. The culmination of his journey, the fulfillment of his destiny, lay before him. He knelt before the flame, feeling its warmth envelop him. The fire, sensing his resolve and strength, flared to life, engulfing him in a brilliant blaze. As the fire consumed him, Gundyr felt a profound sense of peace and purpose. He had conquered the darkness within and without, emerging as a true champion. The flame, rekindled by his sacrifice, would burn anew, ushering in a new age. Gundyr, the Unkindled Champion, had become a Lord of Cinder. His legacy, forged in battle and sacrifice, would endure for eternity, a beacon of hope and strength for all who would follow. If you made it this far in the video, I want to thank you for watching, and it will be very helpful if you can please like the video, share it with your fellow Ashen ones, and most importantly, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you and farewell, Ashen One.